The sun beat down on Silas's weathered face as he surveyed his parched fields. Dust devils danced in the distance, mocking his efforts. Silas wasn't just a farmer, farming was in his blood. His grandpa tilled this land, and his father before him. The farm, named Hope's Bounty, was more than just acres of corn and soybeans, it was a legacy. But lately, Hope felt like a distant memory. The relentless drought had turned his crops into brittle stalks. The bank was breathing down his neck, foreclosure looming like a dark cloud. He'd already sold his tractor, an old but reliable John Deere, just to make ends meet. His wife, Martha, tried to stay positive, baking apple pies and reminding him of their blessings, their health, their love, and the roof over their heads, however leaky it might be. But Silas saw the worry etched on her face, the lines deepening around her kind eyes. He patched a leaky irrigation pipe, sweat stinging his eyes. He knew deep down that time was running out. He had a meeting with Mr. Henderson at the bank tomorrow, and he dreaded it. He knew what Henderson would say, "Sorry, Silas, but business is business." He felt the weight of generations on his shoulders, the fear of being the one to lose it all. He wiped his brow with a dirt-stained handkerchief and looked towards the horizon. Dark clouds were gathering. Maybe, just maybe, they would bring rain. Maybe, just maybe, Hope's Bounty could be saved. He climbed into his beat-up pickup truck, the engine sputtering to life, and headed home, praying for a miracle. He passed the old oak tree where he and Martha carved their initials years ago. It seemed like a lifetime ago when things were easier. He sighed. Tomorrow would be a tough day. He hoped he could find the strength to face it. Meanwhile, miles away in a sleek, glass-walled skyscraper overlooking the city, Veronica was wrapping up a board meeting. She was the CEO of a massive tech company, Innovatech, known for its groundbreaking work in sustainable energy. Veronica was a force to be reckoned with. She had built the company from the ground up, driven by a relentless ambition and a keen business sense. But beneath the polished exterior and the power suits, Veronica harbored a deep respect for honest, hard work. She had grown up on a small farm herself, learning the value of perseverance and the importance of community. She often felt disconnected from that life, lost in the complexities of corporate finance and market trends. The meeting had been tense. Shareholders were demanding higher profits, pushing for more aggressive expansion. Veronica, however, was hesitant. She believed in responsible growth, in creating solutions that benefited both the company and the planet. She argued for investing in research and development, for developing technologies that could help farmers like Silas combat the effects of climate change. Her arguments were met with resistance. The board was more interested in short-term gains. Frustrated, Veronica adjourned the meeting, promising to present a revised plan within the week. As she stepped into her chauffeured car, she felt a familiar wave of exhaustion wash over her. She longed for the simplicity of her childhood, the feel of soil between her fingers, the smell of fresh-cut hay. She decided to take a detour, a drive through the countryside, hoping to reconnect with her roots and find some clarity amidst the chaos. She dismissed her driver, deciding to drive herself. The city lights faded behind her as she headed towards the open road, unaware that her path was about to intersect with that of a struggling farmer named Silas. The countryside road was winding and unfamiliar, but Veronica found a strange sense of peace in the solitude. The sun had begun to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. For a moment, she forgot about the pressures of her job, the demands of the shareholders. She simply enjoyed the drive, the feeling of the wind in her hair, the scent of freshly tilled earth. Then, the sky opened up. A torrential downpour began, the rain lashing against the windshield. Visibility dropped to near zero. Veronica slowed down, her hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. Suddenly, there was a loud bang, followed by a sickening thud. She pulled over to the side of the road, her heart pounding in her chest. She got out of the car, despite the driving rain, and saw the problem immediately. A flat tire. And not just any flat tire, but a shredded mess of rubber and steel. She cursed under her breath. She knew next to nothing about changing tires. She had always relied on her driver or a mechanic. She fumbled for her phone, but there was no signal. She was stranded, miles from anywhere, in the middle of a raging storm. The rain soaked her to the bone in seconds. She shivered, feeling a sense of panic rising within her. She was used to being in control, to solving problems with efficiency and precision. But now, she was helpless, at the mercy of the elements. She huddled back in the car, trying to stay warm. The rain continued to fall, drumming against the roof. She watched as the water streamed down the windows, blurring the already dark landscape. She felt utterly alone, a far cry from the powerful CEO who commanded boardrooms and negotiated million-dollar deals. She wondered if anyone would even notice she was missing. She closed her eyes, trying to calm her racing thoughts. She knew she had to stay calm, to think clearly. But as the storm raged on, and the darkness deepened, a wave of despair washed over her. She was stuck, soaked, and completely and utterly alone. She needed help, and fast. Silas was running late. The meeting with Mr. Henderson was scheduled for 9 a.m., and the storm had slowed him down considerably. The rain was coming down in sheets, making it hard to see the road. He gripped the steering wheel of his old pickup truck, squinting through the downpour. He was already stressed about the meeting, being late wouldn't help his case. As he rounded a bend in the road, he saw headlights in the distance. As he got closer, he made out the shape of a sleek, black car pulled over to the side of the road. He could see someone standing beside it, huddled against the rain. Silas hesitated. He was already late, and he didn't have much to offer. His truck was old and rusty, and he certainly didn't have any tools to fix a flat tire. But he couldn't just leave someone stranded in this weather. It wasn't in his nature. He pulled over behind the car, putting on his hazard lights. He grabbed his old rain jacket from the back seat and stepped out into the storm. The wind whipped around him, and the rain stung his face. He walked towards the stranded car, shielding his eyes with his hand. As he got closer, he saw that the person was a woman, completely soaked and shivering. She looked out of place on this country road, like a delicate flower caught in a hurricane. He could see the fear in her eyes. "Are you all right, ma'am?" Silas shouted over the roar of the rain. "Can I help you?" He already knew the answer. She was stranded, helpless, and alone. And Silas, despite his own troubles, was the only one around to offer her a hand. He hoped he wouldn't regret being even later to his meeting. But some things were more important than schedules and deadlines. Some things, like helping someone in need, just had to be done. Veronica looked up, her face streaked with rain. Silas's weathered face, etched with worry but softened by kindness, was a welcome sight. His old rain jacket, though probably not waterproof anymore, looked like a lifeline. "My car." "Flat tire," she managed to say, her voice trembling. "And no cell service." "Hop in," Silas said, gesturing towards his truck. "I'm headed towards town. I can drop you off at the diner. They have a phone there." Veronica didn't hesitate. She scrambled into the truck, grateful for the shelter from the storm. The interior was worn but clean, smelling faintly of earth and motor oil. It was a far cry from the luxurious comfort of her own car, but it felt safe and warm. Silas started the engine, and the truck lurched forward. The wipers struggled to keep up with the downpour. The silence in the cab was thick with unspoken words. Veronica watched Silas as he navigated the treacherous road. His hands were calloused and strong, his eyes focused on the road ahead. Finally, she broke the silence. "Thank you," she said, her voice still shaky. "You didn't have to stop." Silas shrugged. "Couldn't leave you out there," he said simply. "Wouldn't be right." "I appreciate it," Veronica said. "I'm Veronica, by the way." "Silas," he replied. "Silas Johnson." And so began their journey together, two strangers from vastly different worlds, brought together by a flat tire and a raging storm. Neither of them knew that this chance encounter would change their lives forever. Silas just hoped he wasn't too late for his meeting. And Veronica just hoped she could find a way to repay his kindness. The warmth of the truck cab offered a small respite from the storm outside, but the real storm, the one brewing in Silas's life, was yet to be faced. The diner was about 15 minutes away, a small beacon of light in the stormy darkness. As Silas drove, Veronica tried to make conversation, wanting to distract him from whatever was making him so worried. She noticed the deep lines around his eyes, the way he kept glancing at the clock on the dashboard. "So, Silas," she began, "what do you do?" "I'm a farmer," he replied, his voice laced with a hint of weariness. "I run Hope's Bounty, been in my family for generations." "Hope's Bounty," Veronica repeated, a flicker of recognition in her eyes. She vaguely remembered reading about a small farm struggling with drought in this area. "What do you grow?" "Mostly corn and soybeans," Silas said. "But this drought. It's been tough. Real tough." Veronica sensed his reluctance to elaborate, but she gently probed further. "Are you having a hard time?" Silas sighed. "Let's just say the bank isn't too happy with me right now. I have a meeting with them this morning. It's not looking good." He didn't want to burden her with his problems, but the words just tumbled out. He rarely spoke about his struggles, even to Martha. Veronica listened intently, her mind already racing. She asked about his farming practices, his irrigation methods, his challenges. She kept her own identity a secret, introducing herself only as Veronica. She asked questions about government subsidies, crop rotation, and the rising cost of fertilizer. Silas, surprised by her genuine interest, opened up more than he intended. He described the innovative techniques he'd tried, the sacrifices he'd made, and the unwavering hope he still clung to. He spoke of the land with a reverence that touched Veronica deeply. As they neared the diner, Veronica had a clearer picture of Silas's situation. She also had a growing admiration for his resilience and his dedication to his family's legacy. She knew she had to help him, but she wasn't sure how. Not yet. She had to tread carefully. She realized that she hadn't felt this engaged, this alive, in months. Talking to Silas had reminded her of her own roots, of the values she held dear. It was a far cry from the cutthroat world of corporate finance. And it was exactly what she needed. Silas pulled up to the small-town diner, its neon sign flickering in the rain. "This is it," he said, glancing at Veronica. "They'll let you use the phone inside." Veronica reached into her purse, pulling out her wallet. She peeled off a few bills. "Let me at least pay you for your trouble," she offered. Silas waved his hand dismissively. No, I couldn't," he said. "Just glad I could help." "But really," Veronica insisted. "I feel terrible making you late for your meeting." "Don't worry about it," Silas said, forcing a smile. "It's just a meeting. Besides, helping someone in need is more important." Veronica looked at him, her eyes searching his. She saw genuine sincerity, a selfless kindness that was rare in her world. She knew she couldn't force him to take the money. "All right," she said, putting the bills back in her wallet. "But thank you, Silas. You're a good man." "Just doing what anyone would do," Silas replied, though he knew that wasn't entirely true. Many people would have kept driving, especially when facing their own troubles. Veronica stepped out of the truck, the rain still coming down, though less intensely now. She turned back to Silas before heading into the diner. "Take care," she said. "And good luck with your meeting." Silas nodded. "You too," he said, and with a wave, he drove off, leaving Veronica standing in front of the diner. As she watched his old pickup truck disappear down the road, Veronica felt a surge of gratitude and a renewed sense of purpose. She knew she had to do something to help Silas, to repay his kindness. But she also knew she had to be careful. She couldn't just throw money at the problem. She needed to find a way to help him in a way that preserved his dignity and respected his hard work. She walked into the diner, the warmth enveloping her. She was still soaked and shivering, but she felt a sense of hope she hadn't felt in a long time. She knew that somehow, she would find a way to help Silas save Hope's bounty. She just needed a plan. And she always had a plan. Inside the diner, Veronica borrowed the phone and arranged for a tow truck to pick up her car. As she waited, she couldn't stop thinking about Silas. His kindness, his humility, and his unwavering dedication to his farm had deeply impressed her. Back in the city, safe and dry in her penthouse apartment, Veronica couldn't shake off the image of Silas's weathered face and the desperation in his voice. She knew she had to do something. She sat down at her computer, her fingers flying across the keyboard. She started by searching for Hope's Bounty Farm. The search results confirmed what she already suspected: Silas's farm was in serious trouble. Articles detailed the impact of the drought on local farms, highlighting Hope's Bounty as one of the hardest hit. She dug deeper, accessing financial reports and property records. She learned about the mounting debt, the overdue loans, and the looming foreclosure. She discovered that the bank holding Silas's mortgage was a small, regional institution, barely clinging to solvency itself. Veronica also found articles praising Silas's innovative farming techniques and his commitment to sustainable agriculture. Local farmers spoke of his willingness to help others, sharing his knowledge and resources. He was a pillar of the community, a man who deserved a break. The more Veronica learned, the more determined she became. She realized that saving Hope's Bounty wasn't just about helping Silas, it was about preserving a way of life, a tradition of hard work and community spirit. It was about supporting sustainable agriculture and fighting against the devastating effects of climate change. She spent the rest of the day researching different ways to help. She considered donating anonymously, but she knew that wouldn't be enough. She needed to find a more sustainable solution, a way to help Silas long-term. As the sun set over the city, Veronica had a plan. It was bold, ambitious, and potentially risky. But she knew it was the right thing to do. She was going to use her resources, her influence, and her business acumen to save Hope's Bounty. She just needed to figure out the best way to approach Silas. She knew he was a proud man, and she didn't want to offend him or make him feel like he was accepting charity. She had to find a way to make it a partnership, a collaboration that would benefit both of them. And she knew exactly how to do it. The meeting with Mr. Henderson was even worse than Silas had anticipated. Henderson, a portly man with a perpetual frown, delivered the news with a cold indifference that stung Silas to the core. "Mr. Johnson," Henderson said, his voice flat, "I'm afraid we've reached the end of the line. Your loan is severely delinquent, and we can no longer extend any further credit." Silas pleaded his case, explaining the impact of the drought, the innovative techniques he'd implemented, and his unwavering commitment to saving his farm. He reminded Henderson of his family's long history with the bank, the decades of loyal service. Henderson remained unmoved. "I understand your situation, Mr. Johnson," he said, "but the bank has its own obligations. Unless you can pay your outstanding debts within 1 month, we will be forced to foreclose on Hope's Bounty." Silas felt the blood drain from his face. 1 month. It was impossible. He had no savings, no assets, nothing to offer. His dream, his family's legacy, was about to be ripped away from him. He left the bank in a daze, the weight of the world crushing his shoulders. The sun seemed to mock him, shining brightly on the parched fields that were about to be taken from him. He drove home slowly, his mind numb with despair. He didn't know how he was going to tell Martha. She had been so hopeful, so supportive. He couldn't bear to see the light fade from her eyes. He pulled into the driveway, the familiar sight of his farmhouse offering no comfort. He felt like a failure, a disappointment to his ancestors. He sat in his truck for a long time, staring at the house, unable to bring himself to face Martha. He knew that once he told her the news, their lives would never be the same. The farm, their home, their future, all gone. He finally took a deep breath, summoned what little strength he had left, and walked towards the house, ready to break his wife's heart. He didn't see the black SUV parked down the road, or the woman watching him with a determined expression on her face. Veronica was about to put her plan into action. While Silas was reeling from the bank's devastating news, Veronica was already executing her plan. She had instructed her team to discreetly purchase controlling interest in the First Regional Bank, the very institution threatening to foreclose on Hope's bounty. Within hours, the deal was done. Veronica, through a series of shell corporations, was now the de facto owner of the bank. She knew this was a drastic measure, but she saw no other way to guarantee Silas's future. She couldn't simply give him money, she needed to empower him, to give him the resources he needed to succeed on his own terms. Buying the bank was the only way to ensure that Silas wouldn't be subjected to the whims of another heartless banker. She spent the afternoon reviewing the bank's financials, identifying ways to streamline operations and improve its overall stability. She also made sure to implement a new policy regarding agricultural loans, prioritizing sustainable farming practices and community support. She knew that her actions would raise eyebrows, but she was prepared to face the consequences. She had the resources and the determination to weather any storm. Her primary concern was Silas. She needed to approach him carefully, to explain her plan in a way that wouldn't offend his pride. She decided to visit him at the farm. She wanted to see Hope's bounty for herself, to understand the challenges he faced firsthand. She drove to the farm in her black SUV, leaving her driver behind. She wanted to be alone, to connect with the land and with the man she was determined to help. As she pulled up to the farmhouse, she saw Silas walking towards the house, his shoulders slumped, his face etched with despair. She knew that he had just received bad news. She took a deep breath, gathered her courage, and stepped out of the car. It was time to reveal her true identity and offer him a lifeline. She hoped he would accept it. She truly did. Silas stopped dead in his tracks as Veronica stepped out of the SUV. He stared at her, his brow furrowed in confusion. He recognized her instantly from the diner, but something was different. She seemed taller, more confident, radiating an aura of power that he hadn't noticed before. "Veronica?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. "Hello, Silas," she said, her voice warm but firm. "I need to talk to you." Silas glanced at the SUV, then back at Veronica. "What's this about?" he asked, his suspicion growing. "My name is Veronica Sterling," she said, extending her hand. "I'm the CEO of Innovatech." Silas stared at her hand, then at her face. He didn't shake it. "Innovatech?" he repeated, his mind struggling to comprehend. "The tech company?" "Yes," Veronica said. "And I've come to offer you a proposition." Silas shook his head, bewildered. "I don't understand," he said. "What does a CEO want with a struggling farmer like me?" "I know about your situation, Silas," Veronica said, her voice softening. "About the bank, about the foreclosure." Silas's eyes narrowed. "How do you know that?" "I did some research," Veronica admitted. "And I was very impressed by your dedication, your innovation, and your commitment to this farm." "Impressed enough to, what?" Silas asked, his voice tinged with skepticism. "By the bank?" Veronica's eyes widened slightly. "How did you know?" "It doesn't matter," Silas said, his voice hardening. "What matters is why. Why would a billionaire CEO buy a small-town bank just to help a farmer she met on the side of the road?" Veronica took a deep breath. "Because, Silas," she said, "I believe in you. And I believe in Hope's bounty. And I think that together, we can save it." She watched him carefully, trying to gauge his reaction. She knew this was a lot to take in. Silas stared at her, his mind racing. He was suspicious, confused, and a little bit hopeful. He couldn't understand why this woman, a complete stranger, would go to such lengths to help him. It seemed too good to be true. But something in her eyes, something in her voice, told him that she was sincere. He just couldn't shake the feeling that he was about to step into something he didn't fully understand. Something that could change his life forever. He just didn't know if that change would be for the better, or for the worse. What kind of proposition? Silas asked, his eyes still narrowed with suspicion. He couldn't shake the feeling that there was a catch, a hidden agenda. A partnership, Veronica said, her voice clear and confident. I want to invest in Hope's Bounty. I'll provide the resources you need to modernize your farm, to implement sustainable practices, to become profitable again. Silas stared at her, speechless. It sounded too good to be true. What's the catch? He finally managed to ask. There is no catch, Veronica said, meeting his gaze directly. I believe in your vision, Silas. I believe in your potential. And I believe that Hope's Bounty can be a model for sustainable agriculture in this region. But why me? Silas asked, his voice laced with disbelief. Why not invest in a bigger farm, a more established operation? Because I believe in you, Veronica repeated. You have the knowledge, the passion, and the dedication. All you need is the resources. And what would you get out of it? Silas pressed. You don't strike me as someone who does things out of the goodness of their heart. Veronica smiled slightly. I want to use Innovateca's technology to make Hope's Bounty a showcase for sustainable farming, she said. It would be a win-win situation. You get the resources you need, and Innovatec gets to demonstrate its commitment to environmental responsibility. And I'd still be in charge? Silas asked, his voice hesitant. I wouldn't lose control of my farm. Absolutely not, Veronica said firmly. This is your farm, Silas. I want you to continue running it, making the decisions. I'll provide the support, the expertise, and the capital. But you'll remain in charge. Silas looked out at his parched fields, his heart filled with a mixture of hope and fear. He had spent his entire life fighting to save this farm, and now, a stranger was offering him a lifeline. It was a dream come true, but it was also a leap of faith. He had to decide whether to trust this woman, this powerful CEO, with his family's legacy. He looked back at Veronica, her eyes filled with sincerity and determination. He knew he couldn't make this decision alone. He needed to talk to Martha. I need time to think about it, Silas said finally. I need to talk to my wife. Of course, Veronica said, nodding understandingly. Take all the time you need. But please, Silas, consider my offer. I truly believe that together, we can save Hope's Bounty. Silas walked into the farmhouse, his mind still reeling from Veronica's offer. Martha was in the kitchen, humming softly as she prepared dinner. The smell of freshly baked bread filled the air, a small comfort in the midst of his despair. He sat down at the kitchen table, his face etched with worry. Martha looked at him, her eyes filled with concern. She knew something was wrong. What is it, Silas? She asked, her voice gentle. What did Mr. Henderson say? Silas took a deep breath and told her everything. About the foreclosure, about the impossible deadline, about the loss of Hope's Bounty. Martha listened in silence, her eyes filling with tears. When he was finished, she reached across the table and took his hand. We'll figure something out, Silas, she said, her voice trembling. We always do. Silas squeezed her hand, grateful for her unwavering support. But deep down, he knew that this time, there was no easy solution. They had exhausted all their options. Then, he told her about Veronica. About the chance encounter on the road, about her true identity, and about her incredible offer. Martha listened in stunned silence, her eyes widening with disbelief. A billionaire CEO wants to invest in our farm, she asked, her voice barely a whisper. It sounds like something out of a movie. I know, Silas said, shaking his head. It's hard to believe. But she seemed sincere, Martha. She said she believes in me, in Hope's bounty. But can we trust her, Silas? Martha asked, her brow furrowed with concern. She's from a different world, a world of corporate finance and big business. What does she really want? Silas shared her concerns. He had always been wary of outsiders, of people who didn't understand the values of hard work, honesty, and community. He worried about losing control of his farm, of having his family's legacy taken over by someone who only cared about profit. I don't know, Martha, he admitted. But she promised that I would still be in charge, that she wouldn't interfere with the way I run the farm. But what if she changes her mind? Martha asked. What if she decides to sell the farm or turn it into some kind of tourist attraction? We'd lose everything. Silas knew that Martha had a point. It was a risk, a huge risk. But it was also their only hope. He looked at Martha, her face etched with worry, and knew that he couldn't make this decision alone. They had to weigh the risks and the benefits, together. They had to decide whether to trust this stranger with their future. And they had to do it quickly. Time was running out. The next morning, Veronica arrived at Hope's bounty dressed in jeans and a simple t-shirt, ready to work. Silas and Martha were surprised to see her, but they welcomed her nonetheless. Silas was still hesitant, but Martha's curiosity and inherent kindness won out. I want to show you that I'm serious about this, Silas, Veronica said, rolling up her sleeves. I want to learn about farming, to understand the challenges you face every day. Silas, still skeptical, assigned her the most menial tasks, weeding the vegetable garden, mending fences, and cleaning out the barn. He figured she wouldn't last an hour. To his surprise, Veronica tackled each task with enthusiasm and determination. She didn't complain about the heat, the dirt, or the backbreaking labor. She asked questions, listened intently to Silas's explanations, and wasn't afraid to get her hands dirty. Martha watched Veronica with amusement and growing respect. She saw a genuine desire to learn, a willingness to work hard, and a surprising amount of resilience. She started to believe that Veronica might be the real deal. As the days passed, Veronica became a regular fixture at Hope's bounty. She helped with the irrigation, learned how to operate the tractor, much to Silas's initial horror, and even assisted with the livestock. She spent hours talking to Silas, listening to his stories about the farm, his family, and his hopes for the future. Silas, slowly but surely, began to thaw. He saw that Veronica wasn't just a CEO in disguise, she was a hard worker, a quick learner, and a genuinely kind person. He began to trust her, to respect her, and even to appreciate her presence. He saw that she wasn't afraid to get her hands dirty, and that she truly cared about Hope's bounty. He also saw that she was incredibly intelligent and resourceful. She offered practical suggestions for improving the farm's efficiency, based on her business knowledge and her research into sustainable agriculture. She introduced him to new technologies and farming techniques that he had never considered before. He realized that Veronica wasn't just offering him money, she was offering him expertise, support, and a new perspective. She was showing him a way to save his farm, not just for himself, but for future generations. And he knew that he couldn't let that opportunity pass him by. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset, Silas turned to Veronica. I think we have a deal, he said, a smile spreading across his face. Let's save Hope's bounty. With the partnership agreed upon, Silas and Veronica plunged into transforming Hope's bounty. Veronica invested heavily in new irrigation systems, drought-resistant crops, and precision farming technology. Silas, drawing on his years of experience and his intimate knowledge of the land, guided the implementation, ensuring that the new techniques were tailored to the specific needs of the farm. They faced challenges from the start. The new irrigation system, while efficient, required a significant amount of energy, driving up their electricity bills. The drought-resistant crops, while hardy, didn't yield as much as the traditional varieties. And the precision farming technology, while promising, required a steep learning curve. Some of the local farmers were skeptical, even scornful, of their efforts. They saw Veronica as an outsider, a city slicker who didn't understand the realities of farming. They scoffed at her fancy gadgets and her unnatural crops. But Silas and Veronica persevered. They adjusted their strategies, tweaked their techniques, and learned from their mistakes. They experimented with different crop rotations, optimized the irrigation system, and sought advice from other farmers who had experience with sustainable agriculture. They also faced unexpected setbacks. A swarm of locusts descended on the farm, devouring a significant portion of their crops. A hailstorm damaged their newly installed solar panels, disrupting their energy supply. And a sudden frost threatened to wipe out their entire harvest. Each challenge tested their resolve, but it also strengthened their bond. Silas learned to embrace new ideas and technologies, while Veronica gained a deeper appreciation for the complexities and uncertainties of farming. They discovered that they made a great team, each complementing the other's strengths and compensating for their weaknesses. Martha, too, played a crucial role. She provided emotional support, offered practical advice, and kept their spirits high during the difficult times. She also became a passionate advocate for sustainable agriculture, sharing their story with the local community and encouraging others to adopt similar practices. Despite the challenges, Silas and Veronica never gave up. They were determined to save Hope's bounty, not just for themselves, but for the future of farming. They knew that their success would inspire others to embrace sustainable practices and to build a more resilient and environmentally friendly agricultural system. And they were willing to fight for that vision, no matter what it took. The hard work had only just begun. Slowly but surely, Hope's bounty began to transform. The drought-resistant crops flourished, yielding a bountiful harvest. The new irrigation system, powered by the repaired solar panels, conserved water and reduced their energy costs. The precision farming technology helped them to optimize their fertilizer usage and minimize their environmental impact. The local farmers, initially skeptical, began to take notice. They saw that Silas and Veronica's methods were working, that Hope's bounty was thriving even in the face of the ongoing drought. Some of them even started to adopt similar practices on their own farms. One day, Veronica handed Silas a check. "This should cover all your debts, Silas," she said, smiling. "Hope's bounty is officially debt-free." Silas stared at the check, his eyes filling with tears. He had worked his entire life to save this farm, and now, thanks to Veronica's help, his dream had finally come true. "I don't know what to say, Veronica," he said, his voice choked with emotion. "Thank you. Thank you for believing in me, for believing in Hope's bounty." "We did it together, Silas," Veronica said, patting his shoulder. "You provided the knowledge, the experience, and the hard work. I just provided the resources." But it was more than just resources, Silas knew. It was Veronica's unwavering belief in him, her willingness to take a chance, that had made all the difference. Hope's bounty became a model for sustainable agriculture in the region, attracting visitors from all over the world. Farmers, scientists, and policymakers came to learn about Silas and Veronica's innovative techniques and their commitment to environmental stewardship. Silas and Veronica became sought-after speakers, sharing their story and inspiring others to embrace sustainable farming practices. They established a foundation to support local farmers, providing them with access to resources, training, and technology. Hope's bounty was no longer just a farm, it was a symbol of hope, a testament to the power of collaboration, and a model for a more sustainable future. And it all started with a flat tire and a kind-hearted farmer who was willing to lend a helping hand. Silas smiled, knowing his grandpa and father would be proud. Hope's bounty was secure. As they worked side by side to transform Hope's bounty, Silas and Veronica developed a bond that went far beyond a business partnership. They learned to respect each other's strengths, to appreciate each other's weaknesses, and to rely on each other during difficult times. Silas admired Veronica's intelligence, her drive, and her unwavering commitment to her vision. He learned from her how to think strategically, how to manage resources effectively, and how to embrace new technologies. He also learned that beneath her tough exterior, she had a kind heart and a deep sense of compassion. Veronica admired Silas's knowledge of the land, his dedication to his family, and his unwavering belief in the power of hard work. She learned from him the importance of patience, the value of community, and the beauty of simplicity. She also learned that beneath his gruff exterior, he had a warm heart and a deep sense of integrity. They challenged each other, pushed each other, and supported each other through thick and thin. They disagreed on occasion, but they always found a way to compromise, to find a solution that worked for both of them. Martha, too, played a key role in their growing friendship. She welcomed Veronica into their home, treated her like family, and offered her a much-needed sense of belonging. She saw that Veronica was good for Silas, that she brought out the best in him. Veronica, in turn, admired Martha's strength, her wisdom, and her unwavering love for Silas. She learned from her how to be a good wife, a good mother, and a good friend. She saw that Martha was the heart and soul of Hope's Bounty, the glue that held everything together. Over time, Silas and Veronica's relationship evolved from a business partnership into a deep and lasting friendship. They became each other's confidants, each other's sounding boards, and each other's biggest supporters. They learned to trust each other implicitly, to rely on each other completely, and to value each other's opinions above all others. They realized that they had found something rare and special, a connection that transcended their differences in background, experience, and social status. They had found a true partner, a true friend, and a true kindred spirit. The shared experience of saving Hope's Bounty had changed them both, in ways they never could have imagined. And their friendship, like Hope's Bounty, was a testament to the power of collaboration, the value of hard work, and the importance of believing in each other. The success of Hope's Bounty rippled throughout the local community. As the farm expanded its operations, Silas and Veronica created dozens of new jobs, providing much-needed employment opportunities for local residents. They hired local contractors to build new facilities, local suppliers to provide equipment and materials, and local farmers to help with the harvest. They also made a conscious effort to support local businesses. They purchased their supplies from local stores, ate at local restaurants, and stayed at local hotels when they traveled for speaking engagements. They encouraged their visitors to do the same, promoting the local economy and showcasing the unique charm of their small town. The influx of new jobs and increased economic activity revitalized the community. The local school saw an increase in enrollment, the local hospital received much-needed funding, and the local businesses experienced a surge in sales. The town, once struggling to survive, was now thriving. Silas and Veronica also invested in community development projects. They helped to build a new community center, a new playground, and a new library. They established a scholarship fund for local students, providing them with access to higher education. They also supported local charities and community organizations, helping to address the needs of the most vulnerable members of society. The local community was deeply grateful for Silas and Veronica's generosity and their commitment to their well-being. They were seen as heroes, as saviors, as the people who had transformed their town from a place of despair to a place of hope. But Silas and Veronica were quick to deflect the praise. They insisted that it was the community that had made their success possible, that it was the hard work, the resilience, and the unwavering spirit of the local residents that had made all the difference. They also emphasized the importance of collaboration, of working together to achieve a common goal. They believed that the success of Hope's Bounty was a testament to the power of community, the value of partnership, and the importance of believing in each other. The town had a bright future thanks to their efforts. They were a true inspiration. The diner owner was especially grateful, his business was booming. The story of Hope's Bounty, of the struggling farmer and the billionaire CEO, captured the imagination of the nation. A national news outlet, American Sunrise, requested an exclusive interview with Silas and Veronica, eager to share their tale of unlikely partnership and remarkable success. The interview took place on the farm, amidst the lush green fields and the state-of-the-art farming equipment. Silas, dressed in his familiar overalls and work boots, sat beside Veronica, looking surprisingly comfortable in front of the cameras. The interviewer, a seasoned journalist named Sarah Miller, began by asking about their first encounter, the flat tire, the rainy night, the chance meeting that had changed their lives forever. Silas recounted the story with his characteristic humility, emphasizing Veronica's kindness and her unwavering belief in him. Veronica, in turn, spoke of Silas's integrity, his work ethic, and his deep connection to the land. Sarah Miller then asked about their partnership, about the challenges they had faced, and about the lessons they had learned. Silas and Veronica spoke candidly about their disagreements, their setbacks, and their eventual triumphs. They emphasized the importance of collaboration, of compromise, and of believing in each other's strengths. Sarah Miller also asked about their commitment to sustainable agriculture, about their efforts to protect the environment, and about their hopes for the future. Silas and Veronica spoke passionately about the need to preserve natural resources, to promote responsible farming practices, and to create a more sustainable world for future generations. The interview was a resounding success. Silas and Veronica's story resonated with viewers across the country, inspiring them to embrace hope, to believe in the power of partnership, and to take action to protect the environment. After the interview aired, Hope's Bounty received an outpouring of support. Donations poured in from all over the country, volunteers flocked to the farm to offer their help, and orders for their produce skyrocketed. Silas and Veronica were overwhelmed by the response. They knew that their story had touched a nerve, that it had tapped into a deep-seated desire for hope, for connection, and for a more sustainable future. And they were determined to use their newfound platform to make a positive impact on the world. They knew they had something special. Their story showed it was possible to bridge divides. It proved that kindness mattered. It also showed hard work and innovation can prevail. It was a story that people wanted to believe. One evening, as Silas and Veronica were walking through the fields, surveying their thriving crops, Silas stopped and turned to Veronica. The setting sun cast long shadows across the land, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. "Veronica," he said, his voice filled with gratitude, "I need to ask you something." Veronica looked at him, her eyes filled with warmth. "What is it, Silas?" "Why did you really do it?" he asked. "Why did you buy the bank? Why did you invest in Hope's Bounty? It couldn't have just been about the farm. There are plenty of other farms you could have invested in." Veronica smiled knowingly. "It wasn't just about the farm, Silas," she said. "It was about you." Silas looked at her, puzzled. "About me?" "Yes," Veronica said. "I saw something in you that night on the road, something special. I saw your integrity, your kindness, your unwavering commitment to your family and your community. I knew that you had the potential to do great things, not just for yourself, but for the world." Silas was speechless. He had always thought that Veronica's investment was about saving his farm, about creating a model for sustainable agriculture. He had never realized that it was also about believing in him. "I didn't just invest in Hope's Bounty, Silas," Veronica continued. "I invested in you. I believed in your vision, in your potential, in your ability to make a difference. And I knew that with the right resources, you could achieve anything." Silas felt a surge of emotion wash over him. He had always doubted himself, always wondered if he was good enough, if he was capable of achieving his dreams. But Veronica had seen something in him that he hadn't seen in himself. She had believed in him, even when he didn't believe in himself. "Thank you, Veronica," he said, his voice choked with emotion. "Thank you for believing in me." "You deserved it, Silas," Veronica said, squeezing his hand. "You're a good man, and you have a lot to offer the world." Silas realized that Veronica's gift was not just the money, the resources, or the expertise. It was the belief that she had instilled in him, the confidence that she had given him, and the opportunity that she had provided him. It was a gift that would last a lifetime. He was forever grateful. He understood now. He finally understood. The air was crisp and cool, filled with the sweet scent of harvest. Silas and Veronica stood side by side, looking out over their thriving farm. The fields were bursting with crops, the livestock were healthy and well-fed, and the solar panels glistened in the sun. Hope's Bounty was no longer a struggling farm on the brink of foreclosure. It was a testament to the power of collaboration, the value of sustainability, and the importance of believing in each other. Silas smiled, his heart filled with gratitude. He had come a long way from the despair he had felt on that rainy morning, when he had learned that his farm was about to be taken from him. He had found a true partner in Veronica, a friend who had believed in him even when he didn't believe in himself. Veronica smiled back, her eyes filled with warmth. She had found something she had been searching for her entire life, a connection to her roots, a sense of purpose, and a true friend. She had learned that true success was not just about making money, it was about making a difference. Martha joined them, her arm linked through Silas's. "Look at what we've done," she said, her voice filled with pride. "We saved Hope's Bounty." "We did it together," Silas said, squeezing her hand. "It all started with a flat tire," Veronica said, chuckling. They all laughed, remembering the unlikely twist of fate that had brought them together. It was a reminder that sometimes, the greatest blessings come in the most unexpected packages. The community gathered for the annual Harvest Festival, a celebration of their success, their resilience, and their unwavering spirit. There was music, food, games, and laughter. The air was filled with joy and gratitude. Silas and Veronica stood on the stage, addressing the crowd. They spoke of their journey, of the challenges they had faced, and of the lessons they had learned. They thanked the community for their support, their hard work, and their unwavering belief in them. They raised a glass to Hope's Bounty, to their partnership, and to their future. The crowd cheered, their voices filled with hope and